Welcome, everybody, to Coffee Break. My name is Zach Graveson. It is November 24th, and happy Black Friday. With me, I got the man with the financial plan, Christian Fournier. Chris, how we doing?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day. It's a little chilly up here, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and I'm actually breaking the rule today because I got a little something in my throat, so it's actually tea break, tea time for me.
Great. That's okay. I'm still on
But
the coffee break. I'm a traditional type of guy.
exactly. So, one thing we do want to talk about today is kind of we're starting to feel it, right? It's the end of the year. We're starting to see the Christmas ads on TV. Thanksgiving just went through in the States. So, when we wrap up the year, resolutions, goals for the new year. But for us right now, it's really a period where we kind of reevaluate what our mission statement is, especially now that we have two divisions, FG and Associates, which is overall financial services for Monsieur, Madame, Tout le Monde. And then we have FG Corporate, which is really focused in value acceleration, exit planning for business owners. So I think today what would be cool is to kind of share what is our mission statement. I'll pass the puck to you. So tell the people what really is our mission statement with FG and Associates.
Perfect. So when we started FG and Associates, our goal, our mission, my mission as well, was to create as much wealth for as many people as possible. Me, I have this fundamental belief, Zach, and I've told you this before, that I know that every single person, no matter what the circumstances are, can become a millionaire. For me, it was not even, oh, it's not possible, it's a dream, it's too far fetched. No, I truly believe every single person, if they do the right things, can grow significant wealth no matter what their circumstances are. So when we started FG and Associates, our mission was to go and help create as much wealth for as many people as possible. There are many stories of people that have worked as a janitor their whole lives, yet they paid themselves every single time they got paid. One of them, when they passed away, they had no one to inherit their wealth, so they gave it back to the school, and it amounted to over $8 million on a janitor's salary. One thing to put it a bit into perspective, I always hear when we're out with people, they ask like, "Hey, what would you do if you won the lottery?" Or for them, it's that only option for them to actually make it to that level. For me, in my head, it's like I don't need to think about winning the lottery. I know I'm amass millions of dollars. I know I'll create wealth for hundreds of people that they'll be able to do the exact same thing. But what it comes down to, and I'll do the gym analogy once again, because in my past life, that was my passion and that was spending many hours in the gym. But if you go into the gym, let's say you want to build mass and strength. If you go in every single day, you work out hard, you up your weights every time you're in, no matter what, you're going to grow in size and you're going to grow some muscle, and if you're eating well as well. Vice versa, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're in a calorie deficit day after day after day, you will inevitably lose weight. Same thing comes with building wealth, Zach. If you're putting money aside every single time you get paid and you invest it and you do it over the long term, that's how you're going to grow and build significant wealth. So that's what our mission is to help as many people build that wealth. And where you come in big time, and people sometimes forget, it's as important to protect the wealth and protect what you've built rather than just going full on risk. And that's why we have a risk management side with FGNA that you manage for our clients. So I talked a bit on the wealth growth side. I want you to talk a bit on how you protect them on that side and what your mission is on that side. And then I'd love to hear a bit about the FG corporate or mission statement on that side.
Yeah. So on the risk management side, first of all, when we talk about risk management, we're talking about emergency fund. We're talking about also all these different protections that you get through insurance. Basically, the goal is if anything happens, worst case scenario, we have a plan. So at least we're not dealing with that horrible event and a horrible financial result because of that event.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd say more on a personal side, the mission statement for me is I grew up with mainly single mom. You know, my dad was always in the picture, but we it was a paycheck to paycheck household.
Yeah.
So because of that, there was always the financial stress or always the conversations of you know, can't do this because on a pas assez d'argent. You know, we don't. My mom's French. We don't have enough money, or like always had everything we needed. But I went to a school where I would see other kids have a car right away or have these nice things, and you know, it wasn't something that we had automatically, and I kind of felt the financial stress. If for a big majority of the time, it was just me and my mom.
Yeah.
So I was the person she spoke about when she was stressing and all that. So I heard those stories, and I know that financial stress is the main stressor for Canadians.
100%.
And before we could even talk about investing money and whatever, like you said, before we could even talk about growing your wealth, the main thing is protecting it. You got to make sure you protect that wealth that you've already accumulated, even if it's not a lot. Well, let's make sure that if anything happens, you don't have to use up all your savings. So when we talk about risk management, number one is build an emergency fund. We need to make sure that if anything happens, you're not putting anything else on your credit card. Number two, basic life insurance to cover what? To cover your debts. So, for example, if you're a homeowner, we want to cover the mortgage. Why? Because if anything happens to one of the owners, we want to make sure that the surviving owner doesn't have to sell in a rush, move into something smaller, especially if you have kids. You want to make sure that if anything happens to one, well, you can live off one salary because you had a good life insurance. And again, we're talking about, I did a case this week for a couple. They're in 87, so they must be like early 30s. And for $1 million policy, it's costing them around $60 a month for $1 million.
It's enough.
It seems like just a no brainer. But then, without talking about too much about insurance, I don't want people to fall asleep on this podcast, but the other things are obviously like disability. If ever something happens to you and you can't go to work, well, let's make sure money's coming in. Disability
Yeah.
insurance. If ever you get sick, well, health insurance in Canada doesn't really cover 100% of the cost. And let's say if there's this experimental treatment which increases your chances of survival by 20%, but it costs you an extra 20 grand, well, you'll be really happy if you had critical illness insurance, and now whatever treatment you need, it's never going to be a question of how much does it cost.
Yeah.
So risk management overall is emergency funds, insurance protections, all those things. But mainly my job when I meet with a client is to make sure, worst case scenario, God forbid, let's make sure that you don't have to dip into your savings, into your retirement fund or your
Mhm.
kids' education. So we want to make sure that whatever happens, you don't have that stress. And I'm telling you, I'm someone who's a hypochondriac. I'm someone who is worried about, you know, I get a little chest pain. I'm like, ah, oh, this is
That's it.
it.
This
This
is
is
it.
it.
The
Yeah.
Widowmaker.
But in a weird way, and I've said this before, in a weird way, knowing that I have proper insurance on all fronts, it doesn't scare me as much. You know, it's always like, oh, what's going to happen? But then it's, well, if anything happens,
They're
I
covered.
don't have to worry
Yeah.
financially, at least. And whatever treatment, I could go get the best treatment. So, so mission statement, growing wealth but protecting it as well, because that relieves people of their stress, and finances is the main stressor. And I think that's where sometimes we can't take on a client because they got to take care of some bad debt first,
Yeah.
but those we can't take on right away, well, this is why we do the content, the podcast and all that, so that we can reach out to them and kind of help them relieve themselves of that financial stress.
And you know what I want to add to that, Zach? And you talked about taking on clients. And I have to admit, at some point, I kind of lost the way where I've said, you know what? It's natural. As when your book gets bigger, you can't serve as many clients. It gets harder, you know. And at some point, you have to keep upping your minimums because you just can't serve 1,000 clients. A couple, I mean, even a couple hundred is very difficult to serve. But at the same time, we can't, like you said, we can't forget where we came from because we all have to start somewhere. So one thing I want to be clear on is if anyone is motivated to grow their wealth, no matter where they're at, they can be 20K in debt, 30K in debt, 100K in debt. If they are motivated, they want to work at it, they want help from professionals, our doors will always, always be open. And if at some point we have too many clients, it's easy. We'll just keep expanding the team. We won't let anyone behind. We'll remember why we got into this, and we'll make sure that we keep building wealth for others. And what I love about this business, it's like the boat. You know, when the tide goes up, the boat lives. The water lifts all tides. There, I didn't say the quote right, but you know what I mean. Everyone is rising together, and that's what we want at FG. So that's all I wanted to say on that. So if you guys say, oh, you know what, I don't have the money to have a good advisor, I don't even know where to start. Sometimes we're embarrassed, but you know what? There's nothing to be ashamed of. We've all started somewhere, and it's that first step of doing it. And it's fun because I've seen some of the clients that had the most debt. They're the ones that are thriving the most now. So it's those things that's our mission. We want to help as many people as we can, and we will do it. And our doors are wide open for anyone. So that's the only thing I want to add on that side.
Yeah, I agree. And also, the first steps might not be we'll take the call. We'll go on the phone, we'll advise you, we'll hear you out, what's the situation and all that. But a lot of times, if you're in bad debt and all that, it'll
Yep,
more be a call of what are your first steps? It
exactly.
might be, okay, look, go build your emergency fund. Just keep a solid base in your checking account. Go pay off. Here are the debts. Okay, we'll go take rid of one, two, and three in this order. And then after that, once you've done that, give us a call. We'll be so happy that, first of all, you made the progress, you made the effort, and seeing that you went through steps one and two,
Shows the
we'll be
discipline.
thrilled to help you with step number three.
Exactly.
So so I think that covers FGA. Now
Talk about the
there's been
corporate.
more and more content coming out on the FG corporate side,
Yeah.
which will really be rolling in 2024. But now we're kind of, the structure is figured out. Now we have a few clients that we are ready for 2024. But there was something missing with the FG and Associates, because we served lower class, middle class, high class, anybody. But the one group of people that we couldn't really serve was business owners. And why is that? They have tons of money, they have great income. However, when they make money, they put it back in the business, obviously because they want it to grow. So they reinvest. That's probably their best investment. So as much as, yes, they should diversify by investing in the market, in their mind, and I totally agree, in terms of returns, they're better off investing in their business. So they're not really thinking about an RSP or a TFSA. They all do it, but not as much as someone who's actually building a pension plan with their employer at work.
Right.
So it always kind of bothered me that there wasn't really anything we could do for those people. And Chris, I came in the business because I want to work with business owners. And that's kind of the approach you presented to me, that, Zach, you can come in the industry through the angle of a financial advisor and help those business owners. So, mission statement with FG Corporate is all around one stat, one number that we heard at the Exit Planning Institute, and that's the fact that 80% of businesses that go to market fail to sell. And when I hear that that's the equivalent of 80% of employees not touching their pension plan. That is insane, because if you don't touch your pension plan, how are you going to retire? Well, you're never going to retire. And you see a lot of these business people, some do it by choice. Some people just do it because once their income stops from the business they've built, they won't have anything to rely on. So that, with FG Corporate, that was the number that stuck to us. And then that's when we went to do our CEPA certification, Certified
Yeah.
Exit Planning Advisor. And we learned not only how to increase the value of a business, not only how to identify maybe gaps in the way they're running the business, that simple changes that could increase their profit for every dollar they bring in, but the fact that when people sell, there's two lanes. There's the business lane and the personal lane, where you could have a great business, but if you're not planning personally, like, for example, what does retirement look like? Well, we're going to move to Florida. Okay, great. What are you going to do in Florida? Well, be retired, living the life. Okay, but what are you going to be doing in Florida? And most
Yeah.
people don't really know. They don't really have a plan. And I think it was less than 10%, and I'm being generous. It might be less than 5%. less than 5% of business owners were unsatisfied of their exit once they sold. Usually that's because they overevaluate the business because they didn't do any proper preparation. So they just thought they were going to sell for 10 million. They end up selling for 3. And also they never thought about life after business. And in some weird way, I can relate to that because I've seen it. And Chris, I'm sure you've seen it. You see the people who we played football, university football,
Yep.
for a very long time. And you see it sometimes where people after football, they don't really have a plan. Life was football. And I was one where my parents told me, Zach, we were worried about you after football because I'm telling you, from 8 to 25,
That was your
there's
life.
nothing that went through my mind other than football. When I was in high school, I would break up with my girlfriend before the season because I had to focus on football. I was 12 years old, but that
Okay.
was my mentality. So people were worried, Zach, what's he gonna do after football? Because his whole life revolves around it. So it's kind of the same thing with business owners who they've worked. Now we're talking not 17 years, we're talking about 35, 40 years. Most of the time
Their
it's in one
identity.
business.
Yeah. It's literally their
Exactly.
identity.
So we also help them plan what's life after your exit going to look like. So kind of to recap, because I went and I talked about football, I talked about everything here, but basically the mission statement with FG Corporate is really to, first of all, maximize business owners' income today. Why? Because exit planning strategy is business strategy. Why? Because you have a more diversified, strong customer base. You're not relying on 1 or 2 customers for your income. You have loyal employees, good business processes. We clean up the finances. So by doing all that, what happens today? Well, you generate more income. So that's why good exit planning strategy is good business strategy. You increase your value, you increase your income. So that's the goal with FG Corporate, is to help people, first of all, have a smooth transition whenever they do decide to, guess not hang up the cleats, but hang up the briefcase.
Yeah.
And also will help them maximize their income today. So we have FG and Associates, where we help people protect, create wealth. And then we have the FG corporate side, where our goal is to help people, first of all, protect the value they've built in the business, maximize that value, and then assist them in a smooth transition into the next phase of their life, which is retirement.
What I love about what you said, Zach, is at FG, in the FG group, so we're taking both FG and FG corporate, we're in both sides, whoever you are, whether you're a high net worth individual, whether you're what I call a Henry, high income earner, not rich yet, whether you're just starting out of university and you're not a high earner yet and you're not rich yet, you're just starting out, whether you're a business owner, a self-employed, a contractor, a freelancer, we will be able to grow the wealth of anyone that comes and deals with us through both branches. So no one's going to be left behind, and we're just going to be growing as much wealth as possible for all of our clients on both fronts of our businesses.
Exactly. And one thing that I would like us to kind of talk about is maybe some client stories that we've had recently. So I'm curious to hear on your end, and now it could be FGA side, it could be corporate side. Um, how's the week been? Any clients this week? Any stories that, because every time we tell stories, I have people writing to me saying like, "Hey, that's me right there." So I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear any clients, for example, that maybe we're seeing more and more people who are at the banks and they're going into a personal advisor.
Okay. So two quick stories, and it's gonna be like on both different sides. Okay.
Okay.
First side, first time home buyer. Look, they both put in place their home buyer savings plan, the FHSA. We're putting in amount 8K, 8K. So that's 2 times 2. So 16K, 8K each right now. So we're in November. Then they're going to be putting the first week of January, the same amount, 8K, 8K. Right there, just by putting that plan in place, I've created between $10,000 and $12,000 of money.
Mm.
Not by doing anything special, just by opening those accounts, putting that money in with their incomes that generated a return on average for those two clients was about between 3 and 4,000 per year. double that, then you multiply it again in January. So we're there and we're creating wealth. These are people that are just trying to buy their first home. And it's difficult right now. Rates are high, house
Hmm.
prices are high. Everything, you go to the grocery store, my bill has doubled, tripled. It's
Mm.
expensive. So we take advantage of what we can. And now, just by doing that, taking 15 minutes with us, opening those accounts, we've just created about $10,000 worth of wealth in about 10, 15 minutes. That's one
And
side.
before and
Yeah, go
before you
ahead.
go to the next story, so the reason why you've created that wealth is because the first home savings account, FHSA, or in French, le CELIAP,
Exactly.
that's a new account that it kind of acts as an RSP where it decreases your taxable income. So when you put in that account, it's not like a TFSA. It's an account where actually it'll decrease your taxable income. And in the case of these two clients, I'm assuming that they have a decent income. So that's where you're saying you created 10, 12K of assets just because you reduce their taxable income, bigger tax return at the end of the year. So that's what we're talking about there. So, okay, nice. So again, 15 minutes, open an account. Not no need to create money or invest, just move money,
Just
and you
moving
created
money.
income just with that.
That was story number one. Story number two, a gentleman that's approaching retirement. We've got a good amount of time. So we've got about 7 to 10 years pre retirement. They just want to feel guided. They don't have a plan. Some people, unfortunately, they haven't had that advice. So they're like in the water in the deep ocean and they don't know where they're going. So we just got to guide them to see where they're at. At that point, I'm in asset protection and I want to then maximize as much as they can the retirement fund to make sure that they can sustain their lifestyle at retirement. We talked about once you retire, sometimes we don't know what we want to do. Sometimes we want to travel. We worked so hard our whole lives to put all this money aside. Might as well enjoy it at some point. So just
Mm.
to have that guidance to optimize everything. And it's so night and day from other institutions that we can go, we can take as much time as we can. We can build them custom plans to make sure that we fit their needs. And I ask my clients, what are your expectations? What do you want? What do you need? From there, sometimes we have to take a bit more risk. Sometimes we don't even have to take any risk. I mean, if they want to make 8, 10% a year, but to fund their lifestyle goal, they just need to make 5 or 6. Why take that extra risk?
Mm.
So that's what's great is we see so many people of different types of situations. We know how to help them no matter what that situation is. And we have clients from all ways of life. So that's what's fun. So those are my two little stories I wanted to share with you this week. How about you on your side? Anything that stood out this week?
Well, I'm gonna make sure this mic is real close here because I don't want anybody to miss this. But I have a
Okay.
bone to pick because you mentioned
With it.
something, and I have to. I have a bone to pick, and I have to bring this up. My bone to pick is with our generation
Okay.
saying that buying a house is impossible. Now, there's a big difference between impossible and if it's the right move. I won't argue with someone that renting is cheaper, fine. But if you're telling me you want to be a homeowner, but you just can't because of interest rates, all I see is an excuse. Because listen to this, okay? 2 years ago, August 16th, 2021, I quit my 9 to 5 with no plan. Horrible move. My girl quit school. So she had no experience, corporate experience or whatever. So both of us starting zero at zero. And I didn't have a plan. The money I thought I had saved up. Well, it turns out it was in a locked in account where I couldn't touch. So I started indebting myself, putting myself in debt. I'll say over $10,000 in credit card debt. My girl, fiance today, had a tons of student debt. So two people, no job, no experience, barely any income, lots of debt. My girl found her first corporate job doing customer service, not what she wanted to do, but she knew it was a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Started doing that, little over minimum wage. I started working as a financial advisor, and you don't have a base salary or whatever. When you start, you're making, I would have done more working at McDonald's. So
That
now we
below
have
minimum wage.
just above minimum wage and maybe half of minimum wage. That's our household income. And we're both in debt. So within 2 years, She made a massive jump into a great company and got a high paying, well, much higher paying job. Okay, doing very well for herself, especially at her 26 years old.
Yeah.
Me, I just started building clientele. And the thing we did, the hack, what we did, Chris, to save that money to now today have a house with, massive upgrade from where we were in Montreal is because our way of living, our groceries, we didn't start going, we stayed at Super C.
The
We didn't go up to
restitution alley.
Provigo. We didn't go to Loblaws or IGA. We stayed there. And we got used to living with those means where, yeah, we go to the restaurant every now and then, but it's not because we started making money that now we're like, hey, I need some new shoes. I need to get the car of the year. Both cars are paid off. We have
Yeah.
two cars are paid off. One looks like a pack of rust, but that's another topic. It still works. And again, I'm using that car till the wheels fall off. I negotiated it from 3,000 to 1,200 5 years ago, and it's still working. So
Gets you to A to
another
B.
money hack. Exactly. Her name is Rusty. Anyways, side note. All that to say, we quit our jobs a little over 2 years ago. Weren't making a lot of money. Combined, we're making less than two people doing minimum wage. We were in debt. We paid our debt. We got new jobs. Well, she upgraded. I grew my business, my book of business. She stepped up in the corporate world. And now we have a house. Both cars are paid. Obviously cleared that credit card debt. And yeah, interest rates. Well, right now we're at 5.5 interest rate.
Yeah.
It's not the best. It's not what you could get 5 years ago. It's not 1.3 like I had when I had my condo, but I can do the payments. And the big thing is, are you willing to put money aside? Are you willing to not look like the person who has the brand new car, the brand new shoes, the brand new shirt, and is going on trips every now and then? Can you put social media aside for a second and stop trying to impress people, trying to make them believe the life you're living instead of just working your tail off to live that life? That's the biggest issue I see with our generation. And that's the bone to pick I have. Most people are doing fine. Most people are doing their thing, grinding. But I see a lot of people so worried about looking as if they're living the life instead of building that life.
Hmm.
So do sacrifices from 25 to 30. And I promise you, your 30s are going to be great. And it's just going to be accumulation of wealth. After that, your 40s, well, now you have that financial freedom where you could start a bit, you could do whatever you want with that money. But my bone to pick is with people saying it's impossible to buy a house today. No, it's impossible to buy a house if you don't adjust your way of living, if you don't adjust your grocery shopping. Look at the discounts. Like there's so many different ways. And I think that it really lacks in the content we see on social media, whatever. There's all these financial gurus, but no one's talking about just living in your means, doing some sacrifices, putting money aside, paying off the debt. It blows my mind. And when I hear people say it's impossible to buy a house, I have to ask them, 2 years ago, were you making more than minimum wage? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've been making, like, they're all proud to say how much they're
Yeah.
making. Well, then don't give me that sorry bullshit excuse. Ryan, you can censor that. But no, but
Zach,
that's all I had to say.
I
I didn't
gotta.
really have I have stories, but I didn't. You mentioned the FHSA, and that was the main thing for me. It was like, man, because we see people just like that couple you mentioned, putting money aside, having the plan. And I have so many clients right now that some are making a great salary, some are making just an okay salary, but regardless of the salary, they're all on pace to get their house at the goal they set when they met me of within the next 1 to 2 years. Why?
Exactly.
Because they're doing the sacrifices. They're not worried about keeping up with the Joneses. And whew, got fired up this morning, and I'm only drinking tea. Imagine if I had
If
coffee.
you had coffee in you, I gotta share with you, Zach, that I love the authenticity in these stories because that's what people want to hear, and the fact that you're willing to put it out there exactly where your situation was 2 years ago. Because there's this thing called social debt, and I call that we have to
Hmm.
indebt ourselves to look better in the eyes of other people. Don't care, Zach. People should just do themselves, sacrifice. And then the last thing I'll add to this, it's some people will, I've heard the excuse of people saying, well, I want to enjoy life. Why put money aside? I want to enjoy life. Let me tell you, the people that I see enjoying life the most, it's people that have put money aside. They're the ones that can travel every year. They're the ones that can go out, but they're smart. They have that money aside. You don't want to find yourself where you front loaded your lifestyle and then in the back end you have nothing. Find a way to make sure you can enjoy it throughout your life. And that's very important. That's why we balance both sides. Look what you did. You worked your ass off to make sure you bought that house. You put in the hours, you sacrificed it, and now look where you're at today. And we've seen it, and we've done it countless times for other people. So thank you very much for that story there. It's got me fired up too. So I'm
No
pumped.
problem, man. I appreciate it. And you know what? One last thing is that once you do achieve that goal, and I've been telling you, Chris, what's great about now is that that was only 2 years. Incredible to me that it was 2 years. I would easily been happy. This is a goal that I set for me in 2025 to get this house and get out of, because we're both starting from scratch. She
Literally.
had a great education, but she decided not to go in that field, which took a lot of guts to
Yeah.
realize, you know what, I've been studying in this field, but it's not what I won't be happy doing this. So I
Yeah.
prefer starting from scratch and building my way up again. And she did. And just in 2 years, we went from less than minimum wage in debt to now we have a house. And what's great with that is that for the last 2 years now, every time we made money, we'd set money aside for the house. But now we could start planning for trips.
Yeah.
We could, hey, you know what if we did a first trip to Europe? We were at your place last week and we were asking you guys, okay, what was your best trip? Because now we could start
Yeah.
thinking about those things. And
Exactly.
we're not putting it on a credit card. We've earned it,
Yeah.
and that's the best feeling when you've actually earned the right to say, let's plan a trip. Why? Because now we have the money. Yeah, obviously mortgage payment is way higher than what we were paying when we had the little 3.5, but still we have those good habits. And that's why I tell people 25 to 30, get good investment habits
Yeah.
and live within your means. 30 to 40, now you're accumulating. And after that, 40 to 50, 60, and after that, well, then you've achieved financial freedom and you're never making decisions based off of money. That's
Exactly.
the biggest thing. So I
I don't
think,
have
oh,
anything
wow,
else
this
to
first
add.
time we crossed the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, we're at 32 and counting right now, so that was good, and it flew by, Zach. And I hope our listeners can learn something from these. Our goal is just to give back as much value and wisdom as we can, and we enjoy doing these, and that's why we will keep doing them there every Friday.
Exactly. And again, like you said, whether you're ready to invest, whether you just have questions or you hear this podcast and these conversations or any piece of content and you either have an idea or something and you just want our opinion, reach out. I mean, we're always available. We're always going to answer. And before we wrap this up, actually one announcement. In the next couple weeks, it might be as early as next week, but in the next couple weeks, we will start having an additional podcast every week where we will have a business owner come on the podcast. So on that, if you guys know we already have we're nearing
We have a good
10 people. Yeah, we've got a few people lined up. Just need to figure out the dates. But if you're out there and you're a business owner and you want a platform to talk about your story, talk about what your business does for other people, and what is your mission statement, write to us. We'll gladly have you on. But I'm very excited to have our first one either next week or the week after. We're going to have these people and share their business stories and make it more relatable so that people see that it's not you don't have to be Elon Musk to start a business and to just drop your 9 to 5 and follow your dream of being your own boss and all that. So it's going to be fun. I'm very excited for those.
what I'm hoping.
I appreciate everybody who already said that they had interest and they want to jump on. We'll be seeing those come in the next few weeks. And Chris, I'll leave you with the final words.
What I'm looking forward to those real quick. It's when I read a book, my favorite part is the beginning where you
Mm,
see the successful person talking about his journey to the top. And it's never linear. They've had so many downfalls. And that's what we were going to have, bringing these authentic business owners in. They're going to share with us their real story, like Zach did today about his house story. So that's what we're after. We're going to have plenty on the show, and we're excited. So with that, um, go and enjoy your Black Friday. Remember, if something's at $100 and you buy it for 50, you did not save or make $50. You still spend $50.
I
With that
love that.
said, take advantage of the deals because there's some good deals out there. So don't be too tempted, but enjoy it, guys. That's it
All
for
right.
me. Take care.
Take you. Bye bye.